'69, 327 of us from Cullick County, including my father, marched in Washington, along with 700,000 other Americans, to protest the war in Vietnam. This film is dedicated to all of us, dedicated to peace.
You look closely, they're flying the wartime flag. I'm going to show you another scene in a second if I can get this thing to work. This movie is called 1969. It came out in 1988. And if you look closely in there a moment ago, you got Robert Downey Jr., he's in movies because of nepotism. He's Jewish. You have Winona Ryder, who's in movies based on nepotism because she's Jewish. And you have Kiefer Sutherland, who, by all accounts, has some sort of ties, most likely to Jewish this, that, and the other thing. Maybe I'm wrong, but just the same, he's in movies because of nepotism. Anything that's well-financed and well-publicized, you can't fucking trust it. This movie's boasting that it's about, promoting peace. Bear with me a moment. I want to make sure it's rewinding slowly. We're up to the 2-minute mark, 3-minute mark. All right, now it's going as fast as it can. You and I are bombarded with quote-unquote media, which people now call content because it's becoming something else. This also speaks to becoming a social credit slave. It's another reason why media was rebranded as content and people latched onto it. Here's another point. In this movie, these kids walk down the street, and everybody else who sees them walking down the street says, maybe I should fucking walk down the street with those guys. It's a bandwagon effect. Most of the kids who showed up, and started walking with them had no fucking clue why they were walking down the street. At least it's not explained in the movie. This is the same type of thing that we saw in 2020. People fall into lockstep. They don't want to, rock the boat. And it's a problem. But our masters are banking on this shit. So back to point. Any media you could possibly think of, movies, books, music, etc., etc. And now you got social media. And that's what most people spend their lives on these days. I mean, myself included, trying to make things happen. It's fucking asinine. It reminds me of trying to find books that are worth a damn, in my humble opinion, in real life, which usually they'll say that they have them in the warehouse or they could order them in from somewhere, or maybe we could find one of those, but they aren't in the fucking store anymore, which means you and I are a slave to using the fucking internet. It's another reason why things have been transferred to digital, this, that, and the other thing. That touches on the fact that anything that's in a digital medium can be manipulated by our masters. It can be deleted. It can be censored. It can be all those fucking things. This is what I'm experiencing these days, where I'm paying for internet. I have an internet connection. I got a cell phone. I got a laptop. All this shit's hooked up on a network. But when I leave stuff online, most people don't see what I leave online because in many ways I am disconnected because I'm on a fucking blacklist and I'm systematically censored. Some of you will assume whatever you want, especially if you're new here. This is the only video you've ever listened to me complain about things and or teach you stuff in. If you're paying attention, I am pointing out shit most people are blissfully unaware of. This shit is superficial to me, but you don't hear it coming up. It's not shopped around in the truth community. It's not shopped around in any of those things. Which brings us full circle to this movie, which I'm trying to get to a scene, and we're almost there, but it's going very slowly. They're near Canada, in case you've seen this, just for a mile marker. How should I put it? Oh, we're almost there. It's so fucking close. These things are going to pull you in one direction. They're not going to show you something. They're not going to teach you grassroots approaches. It's the same thing I complain about with Manly Palmer Hall, Manly P. Hall, or any of those other assholes. Here's the fucking scene. 1 second. This movie is supposed to promote peace, but everybody in this movie is throwing a fucking victory sign. The Cross of Nero is why I wanted to highlight that. 1 second. And or flipping them off, which cracks me up. And I don't think that's necessarily lesser magic, but yeah. Ooh, I threw something at that fucking hippie van. And there you go. Which means Hegelian dialectic. Not peace. This is peace. You don't see people throwing that in this. Now, if this movie was truly promoting peace, even though these kids did that back then, blah, 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 you know, in the 60s, because people bought into it, you would have something introduced based on the characters in this movie where they explain this to you. They give you a little bit of dialogue and they say, this is actually peace. And they would teach the other characters in the movie, whether they bought into it or not, whether they looked into it or not. It would at least be stated because this reflects reality and makes sense. It's a union. You're bringing the two together. What they're promoting in the film is dividing people, which is the opposite of what this movie is supposedly all about. That's why I called attention to the Zionist puppets in it, because it's likely propaganda. So a number of people probably saw this movie. It's not as well known as some other movies that some of these, you know, celebrity puppets have been in. But they did train whoever watched this movie to buy into a heartfelt scene, you know, associated with peace. But what they left with was this. This is when I say, what the fuck do I know? If you look into this jazz, you'll find a cover story, a bullshit fucking story, which I've never heard anybody bring up because people don't research anymore. They repost. They regurgitate. They fucking follow the leader online. That's why we get the same tired slush pile of nonsense, because people aren't digging deep. And in most cases, they aren't, pardon me, researching at all. So if you look into where did the peace symbol come from, and keep in mind, this is not the peace symbol, but that's what they're referring to. This is like calling wandering stars planets. It's just fucking stupid. So you had Woodstock, and there's this cover story about how people were selling, I think it was olive oil, and this is where this allegedly came from. And that's what you're going to find if you go looking. That's one of the stories, mind you. It's bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It's also counterintuitive. It's not iconic. It's not iconographic. You're separating things. You're dividing things. It looks like victory. It looks like the fucking number, or the letter V, pardon me. What was the other thought I just had? What I'm doing is I'm thinking about sign language as well as part of it. That's part of what I was doing. I mean, you do have W and you do have V. Yeah, that should be V. The other bit I was thinking about is when I was taking sign language, ASL specifically, you know, the American Sign Language a while back. I forgot what we used to call the other signs. Some signs were iconographic. They would stand out, and it was intuitive what you saw. I mean, if I tap this against my my eyes, that means bi, like bisexual. Not very iconographic whatsoever. The same goes for sex, and of course, I'm thinking of all the dirty fucking smut. Trying to think of one that is obviously, I mean, Jobs, a finger spelled loan sign. I'm trying to think of a good one offhand. A book. I mean, you got to use both hands, but a book looks like a book. You flutter it twice and you open it. It's intuitive. This, however, is not. You bring these two things together, there's peace. If you had two parties that were grumpy with each other, a man and a woman, two guys across different lines, you know, man-made fucking territories, what have you, this is bringing them together. That would be peace. That would be a union. This is the opposite of that. Either way, what the fuck do I know? You don't hear people talking about this. This is a small thing. This is a superficial thing. But it is widely circulated to such a degree that now it is this walking, talking fucking fallacy that comes out of retards' mouths. I said retard online. Cry yourself to sleep. Bunch of wet farts.